As a gamer that's been playing games for over 20 years, sometimes there's kind of big picture talk that comes with certain pieces of games or news about them. And this is one that I think is something to be interesting to talk about with you, which is Bethesda's newest RPG. The people that released the likes of Skyrim and Fallout, and this is their next title, Starfield. We're not talking about how we did review-wise, because that was a previous vid. We're talking about here is the success this game has had, where it is the first time one of their games has been exclusive to a platform. It doesn't matter what platform it is, but this platform, hypothetically, being Xbox, is doing some kind of crazy things that the other guys aren't doing. And how did that work out? And did this pay off for them? So wanted to dive into these questions. Did Bethesda's newest RPG, Starfield, get hurt by being an Xbox first-party exclusive? And once upon a time, did you know that this actually might have been a PlayStation exclusive? What would the world have been like if this was a PlayStation exclusive? And does the success of the launch of this game affect how other games might become exclusives or released? Very big picture talk today, but I like to do that with you sometimes. I like to speculate on games, like to speculate on the success of games and the release of them and so on. So subscribe if you want more of that. Samurai Kibiji. Hope you're geek proud. Awesome today. And there's just a lot of statements about Starfield that's happened the past week that are really big. The main one being, this is supposedly the biggest Bethesda release ever. Did you know? There's over 6 million counted players that have loaded in Starfield in this was 2 days after it officially launched, but a lot of those players were on already due to buying the premium edition and getting early access. But still, basically week of launch, they had 6 million players, which is a lot. That's a lot of players that many games would beg to have. But what's interesting is that, again, this is an Xbox exclusive. There is players on Steam. In fact, we have Steam numbers that we're going to dive into, but this is the first Bethesda RPG. Elder Scrolls Skyrim was not exclusive. Fallout 4 was not exclusive. Fallout 76 was not exclusive. They're a studio that many know and have big releases, and somehow this was their quote-unquote biggest release, which there's a problem with that I'm going to show you in a bit that I really question. But this is supposedly their biggest release ever, and they were a console exclusive. So how does that work when they don't have the over, I think, 30 million or something like that PlayStation 5 owners now? I don't know if that's the number, but there's a lot of people that they missed out not having this on PlayStation. And in fact, it's really interesting because once upon a time, this was going to be a PlayStation exclusive. I wonder in a world how that would have gone. Just kind of looking at numbers here. I don't want to just list facts this whole video. I want to talk with you about this, but just hypothetically, God of War Ragnarok, that was the fastest selling first party title on PlayStation, and that sold 5.1 million copies in its debut week. Now, that's amazing. And what's also interesting is that Starfield in its first week has over 6 million players. Now hold on. Does that mean 6 million people bought the game? No, because a lot of those players are probably playing this game thanks to Xbox Game Pass. Admittedly, that's how I'm playing it. I won't fit in my first impressions in this video, but it took me a long ass time to start liking it, but now I'm liking it after 20 hours. But that's not what we're talking about here. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments. But there's 6 million players playing it, and God of War Ragnarok sold 5 million. Yes, there's more players in Starfield, but it's also probably because a lot of them are Game Pass people. There's over 25 million people subscribed to Game Pass, and if they're subscribed, they have access to Starfield. That's what happens when you're an Xbox first-party game that's exclusive. And even if you're not exclusive, i.e. Minecraft Dungeons and Legends. So it's just really fascinating to hear this massive success this game is having when this is their first time being a first party. Even on Steam, the peak concurrent player count on Steam is at 330,000 for Starfield, which guess what? Is higher than Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim. Skyrim's peak concurrent on Steam was 287,000, and Starfield has more. Now, gaming has expanded so much, and there's more people on PC now. But the interesting thing is that a bit more math too, we don't know how many copies this game actually sold. But what we do know is roughly how many people were playing this game in early access. And the only way you could play this game a week early before the September 6th release, like, that's how I played it, is to have bought the premium edition of the game, which is $100. And, if you bought it on Steam, $100. If you bought it on an Xbox, then it was like, if you have Game Pass, then you could get it for like 30 or 35. So there was a thing from Player Tracker that said during early access week, there was over 1 million people playing on Steam and over 1 million people playing on Xbox. That means there's 2 million plus people that purchased the premium edition of the game to play it early. So that's the only sales number we got. But when you consider that, and put it alongside, say, God of War Ragnarok, and that would translate to, I did the math here somewhere, let me look at it. That translates to $100 million on Steam, over $30 million on Xbox, again, because maybe those could have been full price, those could have been discount Game Pass peeps. Well, so let's just be generous and say $30 million. So that's $130 million in sale, while Ragnarok made $357 million in sales. So that's quite the difference. Selling games makes more money. However, we also have to consider the fact that 25 million plus players are Game Pass subscribers, so that adds another 250 million if they're even just the base members, which I guess most of them are Ultimate members, so it's more. But even if they're just base members, that puts that monthly revenue from Starfield at 380 million. So it works out, and it's just interesting how this is somehow the most wish-listed game for Xbox ever on Steam. This is also the most played next-gen exclusive game for Xbox. Both those two things I just said, Phil Spencer claims. To me, the most interesting thing about this is that if this was a PlayStation exclusive, let's say, them still being a third party, Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy 16 from Square Enix is a game that, they're like, okay, we will release it only on PlayStation. That's what we'll do. They sold 3 million copies in their first week. Great. For some reason, Square doesn't like that, but great. And I don't know what would be a bigger release, the newest Final Fantasy game or the newest Bethesda RPG. I would probably guess the Bethesda RPG because it's been a lot long. Well, I don't know. That could really go either way. But let's say, hypothetically, Starfield sold like the same 3 million copies that Final Fantasy 16 did. Maybe even 4 million, hypothetically. But they wouldn't have had the Steam sales. They wouldn't have had the Xbox sales. And it seems like that pretty much equaled about that, They already got over 1 million in Xbox. They already got 1 million in Steam. And that's all we know. That's from just the premium editions. We don't know about all the people that just bought the standard edition that refused to play through Game Pass. And there's also all the Game Pass means. And it's just, I need to stop myself and really what's the point here? I guess the big takeaways is two things come to mind. One, Xbox's business model is working. It's somehow working between being, having Game Pass, and then they're probably going to move forward with this early release access situation that raked in them a bunch of dough. It did. And that's probably going to be a combination of what they do, mixing that with Game Pass, because it surely worked out here. Made them couple $100 million doing that. The thing that I question about it being the biggest release ever, however, is when I looked into it, Fallout 4 was actually their biggest release. It was huge. They sold like 12 million copies on launch. That's insane. And their peak player count on Steam there was 470,000, which is over Starfield. So it's like Fallout 4 is like way up here in terms of sales. And that's an example of, if they were multi-plat and the kind of dough they could do. But we'll see. Like, maybe these player counts and whatever help drive up Game Pass subscriptions. And maybe a lot of them, maybe now they're above 30 million and that's what Xbox wants. But on the game side of things, on the what are the other guys going to be doing looking at this? Maybe this is going to open the idea of Nintendo's not going to change their ways. Nintendo's just going to do whatever they want. But PlayStation, I feel like, is a bit more adaptive, even though sometimes they're locked in their ways. But I feel like this is going to open the potential possibility of, let's release our games at least on Steam. Like, Steam is becoming a big thing that is making Xbox money, and this shows that. This shows that they did that using Steam. They became the most wishlisted game Xbox has ever had. And it's like, this could open the door to PlayStation releasing their games not just on their console first, but also on Steam. Is that crazy? Is that such a crazy thought? I legitimately am curious. I love to research stuff about games and to talk about that with you. That's just good old-fashioned speculation. So speculate with me, like right here and now. I'm not gonna say the phrase that's gonna make you leave. Just go there. You know what I'm talking about. Just go ahead and watch whatever YouTube is recommending to you here if you don't feel like speculating with me, but I'm telling you, we have a good time in the comments. Let me know what you think about Starfield's success and what it could lead to, and don't forget to be geek, be proud, be awesome.